Well, FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Administration. Remember, it was just a few weeks ago that we were dealing with the aftermath of Hurricanes Helene and Milton, the absolute destruction to the southeast United States. And just the sad state of affairs is the federal government failed to move quickly, and American citizens were on it in no time trying to rescue their fellow man. And there was a lot of concerns that Trump voting regions of the country were being poorly treated at the time. And the left said, well, that's a conspiracy theory. That's absolutely crazy. There's no way that that's true. And then we get a report from the Daily Wire going into this weekend that, in fact, a federal disaster relief official had ordered workers to bypass the homes of people who flew Donald Trump flags or had Donald Trump signs. For more on this story, I want to bring in the author of this excellent and troubling report. Leif Le Mahieu is with us, reporter for the Daily Wire, joins us on the phone. Leif, good to have you with us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on.
Leif, let's just take it from the top. What did you learn when you started digging in?
Well, it's a pretty wild report, but whistleblowers, we spoke with whistleblowers who told us that they were instructed both verbally and in a group chat that we obtained pictures of to, quote, avoid homes advertising Trump as they canvassed Lake Placid, Florida, to identify residents who could qualify for federal aid. And so these relief workers, went to Lake Placid, Florida to help, and they were told stay away from homes of Trump flags or Trump signs. And this troubled them because they were obviously upset because they had come to help, but instead they were told to discriminate against Trump supporters.
Do we have any sense as to why they were told that? Were they being told that as a means to say, oh, I'm going to exact revenge on my political opponents, I want to hurt Trump supporters? Were they being told that, oh, Trump supporters may be a threat to you, so definitely don't knock on their door? What was the rationale for this?
I mean, it was out. No, there was no context in the group chat, and it was listed alongside a list of other seemingly innocuous things like, stay hydrated, uh, don't drink coffee when you're out on the job. Oh, and don't visit homes of Trump signs or flags. And so we're still pressing FEMA for where did this guidance come from? Was this guidance approved? Who knew about this guidance? And what was done when you found out about the guidance?
Yeah, oh, that's totally normal. Yeah, it's everyone follows that advice, right? You say stay hydrated, get 8 hours of sleep, and don't knock on the doors of Trump supporters when you're offering federal disaster assistance. So that's what happened. Okay, so when the workers were told that, based on your report, I discovered that they followed the orders. Did they not?
They did, yeah. At least 20 homes were skipped because of this guidance. And they, according to FEMA, they're now going to go back to those homes and make sure those people had assistance. But this is days and weeks after, so who knows what happened or how many other homes were skipped because of this guidance.
And you have the evidence here in some photos inside of your article on the Daily Wire. For instance, the notes will say something like Trump sign, no contact per leadership. So they were explicit about it that I didn't visit that house specifically because it had a Trump sign and specifically because my boss told me not to.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's in the application that FEMA workers use when they're canvassing neighborhoods. And, they're not supposed to go to homes of stray dogs or maybe down power lines or things that would endanger them if they're walking to the yard. And in this case, apparently Trump signs or flags were on par to be dangerous to them.
And the goal of these door knocks was to offer some sort of financial assistance or some sort of assistance that FEMA could provide above and beyond whatever the homeowner could do on their own?
Yes, if they had experienced a certain amount of damage, then they would be able to qualify for federal aid.
Okay, so Trump people were being excluded specifically because of their support for Trump. That's the story. Okay, so what happened when you contacted FEMA with all of this information?
So it's interesting. FEMA didn't initially get back to us, and then probably within an hour of us publishing the story, they sent us an email back completely throwing their employee under the bus, and they said they took extreme actions to rectify the situation. And we're still looking and asking them what extreme actions they took.
Those were their
we
words?
do know,
Did they? The phrase was extreme actions?
yes, they said, quote, we have taken extreme actions to rectify this reprehensible behavior.
It's
And
bizarre.
by Saturday, they announced that she had been fired. But as of Friday, the employee who issued the guidance had only been placed on uh, leave pending investigation.
Do we
But
know
by
anything?
Saturday, she had been fired.
I'm sorry. So a couple of pieces. One, how much advance lead time did you give FEMA to respond to you before publication?
We reached out to them we gave them about 24 hours. We reached out to them Thursday afternoon, and
Oh, so they had plenty of time.
I attempted to call them multiple times too. And a supervisor who issued the guidance, her name was Marnie Washington. I briefly spoke with her supervisor on Friday morning, and he told me we are aware of this situation and are addressing it appropriately. But I didn't get much beyond that.
Okay, so they didn't get it. So they basically wanted to pretend like this story didn't exist as much as possible, and were hoping that it would just go away very quickly, but it didn't. You published it. It made a tremendous amount of waves online, and they came out over the weekend and they said she was fired. Have they indicated at all what led her to do this? Was this an isolated incident? Was she freelancing, or was there a supervisor or somebody above her who instructed her to act this way?
That's still unclear, and we hope to find that out through future investigations. And hopefully Congress can find that out too, since the House Oversight Committee has already scheduled a hearing on this incident. But they have known about it since someone with the Department of Homeland Security, which oversees FEMA, has known about it since at least October 27, because that's when a whistleblower complaint was filed. And then as of Thursday, the day before our report dropped, we were told that she had only been moved to a different county in Florida, and so no disciplinary action appears to have been taken for at least over a week.
So they just shuffled her to another office in the hopes that that would rectify all of this, but of course that wouldn't, because she very much abused her power in a very cartoonish way. Okay, so has FEMA said anything about the system it's putting in place to prevent such political malfeasance to take place in the future?
No, they've only not yet. They've only promised that it won't happen again, but they haven't really explained how they're going to guarantee that, or who approves this guidance, or what oversight is in place to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Because it's not right for Americans to be denied assistance because of who they support politically.
Of course not. It's so crazy. Okay, so you mentioned Congress is digging into this. They're investigating. What is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis doing in light of the fact that this happened in his state?
Yes, he's announced an investigation through the state's Division of Emergency Management, and they have already sent a letter to the White House telling them that they need to preserve all communications regarding this matter, and because they will be digging into what happened. Furthermore, another Republican governor, Bill Lee in Tennessee, has also announced that he will be working with the state's attorney general to investigate if there was any targeting of Tennesseans in the recent federal response to Hurricane Helene.
Leif, I said Friday when your story dropped, and I read portions of it on the air. First of all, it's an excellent piece, and you deserve all the kudos in the world for having gotten a hold of it and shared it with the world. But I said Friday, this is one of those pieces that will get a lot of attention among the conservative press, but the legacy media will do its solid best to either downplay it or not cover it at all. What have you seen from the legacy press in terms of their coverage? I've noticed that to the extent that any coverage has occurred, some of these outlets, they're not even bothering linking to you or your coverage or giving you credit for your reporting.
No, a few outlets, including the NBC News and the Associated Press, have done articles where they write up FEMA's statement from Saturday, where they announced an employee had been fired for this political action. However, they write in their articles, it's unclear where this happened or who the employee was. So they completely ignored our report. Whereas some other outlets, so like the New York Times or Washington Post, have written it up and they have cited us. So.
Well, that's good news. That's a welcome change. All right. Well, Leif Le Mahieu, excellent work. Thank you for publishing all of this and sharing it with the world. And as more developments occur, we'd love to have you back, sir.